I think I'm recording. Anyway, it's a beautiful day in summertime here, and it is, I believe, July 19th on a Monday here on Camano Island as I look out over Port Susan Bay, over all the way to Mount Baker, snow-clad peak, all year round that it is. Today I have a special reading to share with you from the unpublished notes of Paramhansa Yogananda's talks, and this one has to do with some of the more esoteric aspects of the inner reality of the human body, its physical, astral, and causal components. It's especially appropriate for me to do so because this last weekend has been the semi-annual weekend of Kriya initiation, the initiation into the higher aspects of yoga practice, as given to us in the modern age through Babaji and Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and Paramhansa Yogananda. And so he gives us this yogi song, which seems to have spawned two different chants in Yogananda's collection of chants in a book called Cosmic Chants. One of them is titled Without Meditation Mind, or Search Him Out in Secret is its title, and the other one is Why, O Mind, Wanderest Thou? Go in Thy Inner Home. Both are chants very much related to the deeper aspects of yoga, and especially Kriya Yoga. So I'm going to read the chant first, and then he gives an analysis of it. It's quite interesting for certain of us yogis. So here's the yogi song. Without meditation mind, hither thither wanderest thou. Adorable hymn, search him out in secret now. For thy wheel's sake all-pervading God flows, as Ida then Pingala, whenever thy breath blows. On the left good Ida, on the right Pingala river, in the middle ever flows Sushumna, cosmic redeemer. After knowing Sushumna, you will have true yogi power. In cranium you will reign in cosmic bower. Inner sight will blossom, you will lose me and mine. All will be thyself after thou hast sight divine. Floating on the breeze of bliss in the chariot of skies, peering into his eyes with thy diving eyes. Thousand petals nectar drink, 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 and drink. Soul-drunk cosmic sound deeper do thou sink. Brahmanardi's subtle passage lies through soil of Sushumna deep. Vajra, Chitra, tunnels too cover that passage deep. By pranayama's light those two paths explode. Then you go soaring in Brahmanardi's fold. Fruitarian diet and sackcloth and yellow dresses, smearing of ashes and keeping matted tresses, willy-nilly roaming with a begging bowl, you will never know your subtle soul. Whoever knows Brahmanardi by meditation lore, he was known as Brahman in days of yore. Through bad karma all is gone, all is lost today. That is why in India we see sorrows sway. Knowing this path, you will roam in Brahmanardi's light. You will destroy all obstacles' might. Blessed Vajra, if thou wilt have cosmic rest, Guru-given pranayama, practice thou with zest. Well, that's a lot. He says this is a song written by one of Swami Sri Yukteswar's great disciples. I could probably guess his name, but he doesn't state the name. So, he goes on then for several pages in the transcription to explain these verses. So because of the lack of meditation, he writes, you failed to glimpse the joy of communion with God. Without meditation, hither thither wanderest thou. Adorable hymn, search him out in secret now. That is why the restless, unhappy person is told to search for God in secret, the most adorable being. You must search for God in your own heart. You will not find him outside yourself. You will only find him in your soul. Through these secret passages within the spine, and with it comes the most wonderful visions and sight. You know, the body is very specific. The universe is very specific, okay? Working through direct channels and instruments and processes. Why can it not be therefore so with the respect to the awakening of the soul? Then he goes on, for thy wheel's sake all-pervading God flows as Irda and Pingala. This is the connection between the breath and cosmic life. Breath is God. If your life stops, you die, don't you? Therefore, there must be some connection between the breath and the infinite. You have seen the two threads that run along the vertebrae. These are the two insulations through which electric life currents flow. They are the Irda and the Pingala, or the two astral tunnels that govern the nerves of the spine. Irda controls the cerebrospinal or voluntary nervous system. Now they flow through these thread-like apertures, and they cross at two ends of the vertebrae, at the medulla at the base of the brain, and at the base of the spine, the coccygeal plexus. The rays of light that proceed from each of the 7 plexuses that the yogis speak of as the chakras are 1,000-petaled, 2-petaled at the medulla, Irda and Pingala, as I just mentioned, 16 petals, 12 petals at the heart, 10 at the medulla, 6 at the sacral, and 4 at the coccyx center. Let's see. The current comes into the body at the medulla, goes up to the brain, and deposits the current in the brain center called the 1,000-petal lotus because it radiates 1,000 rays. Okay, now these 7 plexuses in the spine are the centers of light that distribute the life currents throughout the body, with the main dynamo, the brain, and a lower dynamo at the base of the spine. These vitalize and support the functions of the whole body. They enter in through the medulla and then down through the 2 channels of Irda and Pingala. They support the breath. If these 2 currents were taken away, you would die immediately. They are responsible for the heart action and the heart action for the breath. Therefore it is said that the great God for your sake has come to you as Irda and Pingala, wherever your breath blows, that in every breath God is speaking to you. That is why the control of breath leads to God consciousness. These plexuses in the spine form the contact between the energies of the physical body and the astral body. And then in the poem it says, in the middle ever flows Sushumna, cosmic redeemer. The main flows through the Sushumna in the center of the spinal cord. It is a tremendous electrical current, insulated just as a current is insulated in electrical wiring. It can only be seen in meditation. After knowing this current, you will have true yogic powers, because the control of that yoga power means communion with God. Yoga means union. If you can control the Sushumna current, you can unite your soul current with the cosmic current. In cranium, the poem says, you will reign in cosmic bower. You go into the palace of cosmic light in the brain. Inner sight will blossom and you lose all sense of me and mine, of separate self. And then you will have sight divine. You will be able to see through everything and everybody, penetrate into every soul, and you will have divine sight. And now Yogananda says the most beautiful part comes. Floating on the breeze of bliss in the chariot of skies means you are on wings of joy everywhere in your omnipresent body. The whole sky will be your chariot. The first contact that the yogi has with God is bliss. But those currents do not flow upward, they stay in the body. Gradually, as you develop, they flow upward to the brain, and at that contact, your soul expands all over and beyond, all over the cosmos and beyond the body. 1,000 petals nectar drink, drink, and drink, drink, from the poem. There is a current that comes from the cosmos that has the brilliance of 1,000 million suns boiled together. They call it the 1,000-petal lotus. St. John in the Revelations mentions the spinal centers, and he calls them candlesticks, and their light he calls stars. When you commune with that great light, there's an actual nectar that flows into the mouth that will sustain the body, so the body can remain without food or water for a long time. He goes on to say hibernating bears do this. They put their tongue back behind the palate and are able to rest in hibernation without food. But the yogi can do this at will through the mudra known as Kechari mudra, which we teach. After all, he says there's enough electrical current in a gram of flesh to supply an entire city for 3 days. Why can't we sustain our body? And so the true yogi can drink that nectar and sustain the body. Then he talks about 2 women who have been able to live without food for many years in the West, Teresa Neumann in Germany during his lifetime, and in India, Giribala, that he talks about in his autobiography. Okay, let's see. Brahmanardi's subtle passage lies through the soil of Sushumna channel, but you have to go first into the Sushumna, then through the Vajra and Chitra tunnels, which he describes in the poem as you explode to enter the Brahmanardi. In his other writings, he talks about the Brahmanardi being the direct current to the divine self beyond all creation, the 5-pointed star in the spiritual eye. By pranayama's light, the Vajra and Chitra channels explode, he says. And then you go into Brahmanardi. Brahmanardi is the 3rd of the 3 tunnels you have to go through before you can get out of the body. He says it is very simple. First the Sushumna current, then the Vajra, then the Chitra, and by the light of these you go soaring into Brahmanardi's fold. Brahmanardi is the last channel. Okay, there's more. Let's see what time it is. Okay. He says we're prisoners in the body, and we have to know how to break out of the jail, and this is the way that it's done. First you withdraw all the energy from the body into the Sushumna, and then like a plummet of lead dropped into the depth of the sea, you go deeper into each succeeding channel until you burst out through the Brahmanardi. He says the word Nardi means tunnel of light. Just as you need a light when you go into a tunnel, by that light those 2 paths explode, and then you roam in Brahmanardi. You don't know how great that initiation is. Yogananda says, I live in that consciousness all the time. Okay. He talks about an Irishman, an Irish priest he met once in California, who really, hearing Yogananda talk of these things, was really, really wanted it, and even cried. But then he goes on with the poem, Fruitarian diet and sackcloth and yellow dresses smearing of... What he's saying is that by mere outward renunciation alone, monks and nuns and ascetics traditionally do not enter into God communion. Material renunciation is not enough. You must reach God consciousness through inner communion. Okay, you do not need to go into a jungle. You do not need to reject the world. You simply need to go within. A priest is born into a Brahmin family just as a prince is born into a royal family and is called a Brahmin. But a true Brahmin in former times and higher ages was one who knew Brahma. Okay, let's see. Guru-given pranayama, practice thou with zest. This is a reference, he says, to the practice of Kriya Yoga, which leads you through the first astral tunnel. And from there you can get into the other three. Okay, the astral body can be made small by meditation, and then when it leaves the body, it expands out into the cosmos. He says there's the great circular motion that comes in, a churning at the bottom of the spine. What happens is this, he says, you see that your astral body begins to collapse and become small as it enters through the coiled passage. Then the current flows upward on this breeze of bliss, and you float out into the cosmos. First through the Sushumna, and you can't get out. Then through the Vajra current, and you still can't get out. Then you see the lost ganglia, lotus ganglia current in each center. In the Vajra channel, the astral body becomes invisible because that's where the spirit is. Then when you get out through the Brahmanardi, the astral body becomes visible again and goes out, leaving the physical body behind. Then you see the whole cosmic body projected onto the astral body, and the whole physical body projected into the astral body. Then you are in the astral body, you go out through the causal body, and then you are free. And as it says by John in Revelations, you will go out no more. When cleansed from desires, you can ascend into the causal body. Causal world. There you will find all the fine things of life. Acquisition of knowledge is given you because you have then entered the spirit. That realm no one can describe. It is pure consciousness. When you enter that realm, you remain in spirit. The difference is now you know that God has become you. But God has to become you in this incarnation. I have never given this lecture before publicly, and I hope you will keep it secret within yourself. Do the great work of Kriya, going up and down the spine, chanting Om in each center. Okay. By studying this poem, you will know more than a whole book of yoga technique. When I sing this song, I can see the master. We all used to sing it together, and the master who composed it used to come. It was a very favorite song. The more you sing that song in meditation, the greater results you will get. Well, I'm in overtime, but I wanted to share that after our Kriya Yoga weekend. It's a wonderful song. Okay, great souls, that's more than you can deal with, more than I can deal with, but it's wonderful promise of immortality.